Hello, everybody. It's 9:27 a.m. Central Time on the 21st of June, 2023, Wednesday, here in the United States. Hope you're doing well. I'm re-recording my update. I deleted my own update earlier. Not pleased with myself and my language. That being said, let's get into the re-recorded update. I'm going to try and recap things best I can, maybe shorten things up a little bit too. So we're going to do this update. We'll go over all the earthquakes across the United States, internationally, and we'll do a forecast. We'll also talk about the fires in Canada and Mexico now, and we'll just cover it all. So, new deep earthquakes in the West Pacific, multiple new deeps here on our letter D, and here on our letter D, up at Japan, 2 sets of deep 5s. Whenever we see deep 5s, we usually watch next to the deep 5s for a magnitude larger earthquake to strike. And we have deep 5 to 5.5 and a deep 5 up here at Japan. So that means Japan incoming upper 5 to low 6. And that'll be striking right here in between all these sets of earthquakes. The way we do this with forecasting is we find the halfway point between the clusters of earthquakes. We look down at the halfway point. That's the spot to watch. We also look between huge areas which are moving, and that helps us to determine the other open spots or silent zones to watch between our clusters. So, for instance, we have a cluster up here at Japan. We have a cluster down here at Philippines going down into Indonesia. We'd watch in the middle of the cluster at Japan, and we watch in between the two clusters, between Philippines and Japan. So that means North Philippines, Taiwan. That also means Tokyo. Okay, 2 examples right there. Another spot to watch that we're going to have to watch over to the west. Now, Mount Krakatau has showed back up on the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center list, which I did not show in my last update, but you know what? Let's just go ahead and get a new window open here. We'll go check the VAAC on Volcano Discovery. This is just showing us the actual ash advisories. We have Nevado del Ruiz volcano in Colombia, Sabancaya in Peru, Semeru in Indonesia, Popocatépetl in Mexico, Nevado del Ruiz again. Here's Mount Mayon. Now, Mount Mayon in Philippines, they evacuated around the volcano like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And the worry is there could be a big blast. This volcano has done 50,000 foot high blasts before, 40 and 50. So pretty big blasts from that volcano in the past. It hasn't happened yet. But the other addition to the list is Mount Krakatau. Started at 2,000 foot high blast, then went to 5, then to 8. Now we're at 12. FL120. So that's going on there. And I mean, it's gone up, so it's increasing in size. It's not huge yet. We've seen 50,000 plus foot high blast at Mount Krakatau, which is the son or leftover daughter or whatever, however, the child of Mount Krakatoa, the blast heard around the world. Anyway, that's where we are here, and we're going to look next to it for a new 6 to 6.5, as well as up here at Japan, it's 5.9 to 6. So we're dealing with 6.5 level activity, and then that gets me into the big earthquake that hit 2 days ago over here on the coast of Mexico. You see it, it's a 6.4 to 6.5 right here. And if you're not aware, let me just quickly take you over to my YouTube page. The day before this earthquake hit in Mexico, the day before the 6.5 hit, I issued this post right here. So 3 days ago, I issued this post talking about Mexico and the high pressure system that was rotating here. Again, a clockwise rotating high pressure. Counterclockwise, we have the low pressure systems, of course. They look like a big comma shape there or a bass clef shape, but in this case, it's a high pressure. And right there at the center, you see that's central Mexico over to Baja, the center of that rotation of high pressure. Now, I said could watch the center of the rotation over Mexico for possible earthquake activity too, and then that ties in with the 6.0 level activity we're looking for. So that was the day before, and then that followed up right here, literally right next to the center of the rotation. Now, the reason that is, just simply put, we all know if we scuff our feet across carpet, that we can pick up electrons and store them in our body like a battery or a capacitor, and then you touch a doorknob and out comes some lightning, right? A little shock of electricity that comes out of you as you've literally stripped electrons off the carpet with your shoes, and it goes up into your body. Well, the same thing could be said for the rotation of the atmosphere. And the electrical charge from up above, we get solar activity that bombards the Earth's magnetosphere and ionosphere. This ties in with the large solar activity that we've had in the past few days. It's gone from M-class flares up into X. So we just had an X1. I don't think it's Earth-directed. If it is, we'll find out very soon with strong solar winds within 2 to 3 days after that strong solar flare, if it's Earth-facing. And usually there is some solar wind accompanying those flares. Solar wind buffets the Earth's magnetosphere, and when that happens, then we start to see the bass drum down inside of the Earth, the core of the Earth. The VLF, very low frequency bass drum, starts to pick up in intensity, or like a bass speaker, it starts to vibrate. Very low frequency. Then we see deep earthquakes, like this, down below the plates, which are raised high off the planet to see easily. So let's just recap. New deep earthquakes. We're going to watch next to the deep earthquakes for shallower, larger earthquakes up to a magnitude larger. And we look between our sets of quakes. So I'm zooming in here on the area east of New Caledonia next to Fiji as another example of a spot we have to watch for a shallower, larger earthquake, which could go up to 6.7. So it's really 3 sets of mid-range 6s due on this side of the plate alone. We're not done yet. So let me rename the areas. We're going to watch Java, Indonesia. We're going to watch, actually there's 4 areas on this side of the Pacific. Java, Indonesia here is area 1, and all 4 should get hit. Area number 2 is right up here in North Philippines. No shock because you already got one of these once last week. It's mid-range 6. Third spot should be here next to Tokyo. That's upper 5 to low 6. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. As we go over to the west, we have to look for mid-range 5 to upper 5 level activity, which is pretty big for this area at Nepal, right here on the plate boundary, coming up and going around the bend of the plate. Excuse me, I almost just coughed and sneezed into the microphone. Very professional. Let me get a sip of my coffee. I've been going all night, guys. Recorded my first update at 4 in the morning. Started swearing 3/4 of the way through the update. Not my finest moment. Anyway, all right. Let's get the plate boundary map open. Yeah, I'm drinking coffee as I'm talking to you. Okay. Anyway, over to the west. Here's the Indo-Australian plate. India, Australia. We have deep earthquakes down below here and up at Japan. Something's coming up from down below here in the West Pacific. The wave, the very low frequency wave. Now it's spreading out and going over to the west. We're going to watch in between our 2 sets of quakes, and that puts us right here. Halfway point between this quake over here at Iran and these sets of quakes coming out of Myanmar, going into Myanmar, I mean. Halfway point between the two, if you go around the bends of the plate, puts us right here. Just North India, so we have to warn everybody North India into Nepal, mid-range 5 to upper 5. Anytime we get above 5.0, I start to worry because of the mountaintop villages, stone stack structures. They literally have cobblestone stack structures in a lot of these mountaintop villages, made out of the rock that's around there. I mean, come on. So we have to get those warnings out. Now it could be anytime this week, but I would think it's imminent. It's in the next few days. Because these earthquakes already hit in the last 48 hours. Think of it like this. There's a wave going back and forth between Iran and back over here to Myanmar. And the halfway point between the two is where the wave peak is going to come up next. Like reflecting off both ends, and then the middle gets hit. Okay? Now, over to the west we go. Let me show you the plate boundary over in Iran. Oh, wait. I thought I had that window open. There we go. Here's Iran, the red line in Iran. Connects over and meets into the north side of the Indo-Australian plate. So that wave is coming across, going to go over into Iran, then over into Europe. But the spot that's going to get struck in Iran is North Iran, up on the north side where the arrow is, south of Turkmenistan, south of Azerbaijan, east of the Caspian Sea. The size should be 5 to 5.5. So we're going to look 5.5 to 5.9 at Nepal. We'll take a half magnitude step down at Iran. That's on the north side. Let me show you why it's going to hit there in case you're new and you don't know about Iran. So here's Saudi Arabia, here's Africa, here's Asia, here's India. I'll turn off all the borders and labels now, and we'll zoom in on the area around eastern Iran. You see, it almost looks like a flowing river. These are mountains. The mountains have bent and contorted in the shape of the wave that goes around the plate. This very low frequency wave. Now it comes out of the Himalayan range, goes over and across, and when it gets here, it breaks like a fork in a river. The wave is separated and goes to the south and to the north. On the south side, the USGS has the plate boundary map marked in red. On the north side, they don't have anything. Now, what happens is when the wave gets here, it splits both ways. So if we get a 5 on the south side, normally we get a 5 on the north side. So, north side, 5 to 5.5. And how did I come to the 5.5 conclusion? Look at the rest of the energy coming in. It's like a wave coming in, and the wave coming in is equal to 5.5. It's going around the bend of the plate. Should not lose much energy. That's the thing about these very low frequency waves. They're very powerful. They're coming up from the core of the Earth. They spread out and follow these red lines like wave guides in a microwave. Guide a microwave to your food. In case you don't know how a microwave works. Oh, man, bad analogy, right? Well, no, it's a great analogy, but trying to explain how a microwave works to everybody, right? Like, well, guys, electricity goes into this thing. It's like a chamber, and the electricity vibrates, and the vibrating electricity is called radio waves, and the radio waves shoot out of this little chamber called a magnetron, and it goes down what's called a wave guide, and it guides it to your food. Or it shoots it, if you put it out on a tower, it's going to look at the weather or something. Okay. Anyway, the wave, the VLF wave, is operating in the same way. It's coming up from the core of the Earth, and it spreads out across a huge distance. And look at the distance it spreads between peaks. Thousands of miles between each peak of the wave as it spreads out across the whole north side of the Indo-Australian plate in a generalized direction to the northwest and up towards Japan. It gets directed around like a wave guide in a microwave around the bend of the plate up into, well, now going up into the Alaskan Aleutian Island chain as of today. So it starts here down below, spreads out over to the west and up to the north. That's the path the quakes are taking. So we're going to get struck there, North Iran, 5 to 5.5, as the wave is equal to a 5 to 5.5, just plain and simple. That's why are we going to get a 5 to 5.5 there? Because the wave is equal to a 5.5. Same reason that you get a tide. Why is a tide at 5 feet? Because the tide is at 5 feet. Science. Okay, all right. Yeah. There'll be a few people who get that joke. Okay. Let's get a sip of our coffee, class, shall we? Don't start drinking coffee, kids. As we go over to the west, multiple 4s going across over into Europe, Eastern Europe. Now, let me show you where this quake struck in Eastern Europe. You see the red arrow? Now, let me show you the USGS map over in Europe. Look in Eastern Europe. Notice anything? Romania, Bulgaria? Nothing, right? Now, why do I have a S-shaped arrow there on my map? Let me show you what is physically there in the mountains. There we go. All this writing might get in your way, so let me turn it off here. See the backwards S shape here? Carpathian Mountains? Well, those are all trees. Those are mountains on the trees. But the plate, this is the shape of the plate, the interior portion of the plate, the craton edge of Europe. And it goes around the outside edge of Eastern Europe. And then you'll see it kind of makes like a humpback bend across Northern Europe over, and then it goes down into France, over to the west, and almost like a triangle-like shape there. So you could trace it back. Now, I'm going to turn on all of our volcanic features. What you're going to see is that every bend in the craton, we've got an ancient volcanic field marked by the Smithsonian. So here, at one bend, here at the other. We go all the way up this somewhat straight line of mountains, which, I mean, it's not straight, it's diagonal, but we go around the bend of the plate, and look, we fold down into here, then up into the Bruntel, then over into the Sheb Basin, then over to Roterberg and East Eifel, West Eifel Volcanic Field, then back down to the Chain de Puys, Champ de Poix, I mean, how are... And then we go down further down to the Olot or Olat, but they're somewhat equally spaced around the bend of the plate, wouldn't you say? Just like the folds in the bend of the plate are somewhat equally spaced. Now, I have an explanation for that. The wave. The wave is somewhat equally spaced across here, and the wave has been going across this wave guide for a very long time. So, where did this 4 come from? Well, the 4 came from the same place that all the other 4s came from. The wave. The wave is coming in. It's equal to about a 4.5 at this point. You can see it down here in Turkey 2 days ago. Went up and around the bend of the plate, lost a half magnitude or so, or just a little less, dropped off a 4 there. Once we get beyond that 4, look what happens. 3s. So once the plate starts to absorb, we get 3s. Now, centered in the middle of all of this, we have a new swarm up here next to Florence, on the north side of Italy. Let me show you what is on the north side of Italy. Here, make sure you can see this. Here on the north side of Italy, we have the plate boundary. It dead ends into the Swiss Alps between Turin and Milan. Florence there on the north side. And zooming in right here. Tuscany, okay, right there is the red line of the plate boundary. Now, I saw in the news, Campi Flegrei was in the news. They're talking about the threat of a super volcanic eruption. Campi Flegrei. Let's zoom in and show you Campi Flegrei. Here it is. Look at it. Pretty wild, right? Huge. A super volcano. Right on the coast of Italy. Who would have thought? And not just anywhere in Italy. Naples. It's pretty close. And there's Vesuvius, the famous Mount Vesuvius. Came down and covered. Was that Vesuvius? I'm pretty sure it was. Came down and covered the town. Now, I don't think it's going to erupt anytime soon. Knock on wood. I know that's some kind of weird thing, so I'm not really doing like that for occult purposes. But I'm just going to say, I don't think it's going to erupt now. There's no seismic activity at it, worth mentioning. Where are all the earthquakes? We had the Italian feed turned on. Are they not reporting the earthquakes at the location? That'd be weird if they weren't, as they're talking about it in a paper. Now, the paper is what warned for the possible eruption. So I wouldn't really call it a warning. If you were going to put out a warning, you put out a warning. You wouldn't put out a paper. A paper is to get a name for yourself. A paper is to try to tell you it's going to happen in the future sometime. Now, we know it's going to happen in the future. You know how I know it's going to happen in the future? It's happened in the past. That's right. Let's show you how many times it's happened in the past. Let's just take you up to the north and show you this one. There's Colli Albani. Look how many blast craters are in this. 1, 2, 3. And then in the center of here, we have other volcanoes, which are smaller. Little small spatter cones inside of the bigger caldera, which is inside of the bigger. So it's like 3 sets of volcanoes. That's one of them. Here's another one. Sabantini Complex. Look how big this one is. And look how many times it's done in the past. Let's go further up to the north. Volsini. These are all way bigger. Go back down to Campi Flegrei. There it is. So I'm not saying it's completely a bunk story. I'm just saying that it's maybe filling a few news slots, and that the worry for it now would be misplaced unless we have seismic there that I don't get reported to me. Right? Where's the seismic? Nothing there. We're showing 0.0 and greater. European feed is included. Oh, ding-a-ding-ding-dong. Hold on now. Now that's odd. That's odd. Now nobody's got this number. Ain't nobody got this number. Who'll be calling this number? Wow. Guys, I haven't gotten a phone call in forever. My family doesn't even call this number. And you're going to call while I'm live, aren't you? Showing off, are you? Well, Let me tell you what you need to do? You need to have yourself an earthquake plan. Phones won't really be around very much longer, I don't think. Maybe a few years at the most. So you're probably going to need to have yourself a communication equipment like I've got. One of these CB radios that'll talk maybe 100 miles if you have a 6 dB antenna or something like that on it. Anyway, let me get back into the update here now that we've been completely distracted. I'm not going to take this out of the video. I hardly ever get a phone call. I'm shocked to see one calling in from a 573 area code, South Missouri. Down next to the military base. I'm not saying it's them calling. I'm just saying, wow, man, like, that's cool. So, anyway, zooming in on the area, we're going to warn our area right down here where all the rings overlap. Now that we're completely sidetracked, Campy Flagrie's not going to erupt, I don't think. Knock on wood. Think it's just a paper that's come out, and they're just talking about a potential in the future. But I would look for 5.0 to 5.5, just like what we're going to look for over in Iran. So, 5 to 5.5 is nothing to scoff at. I would actually have to warn Paul Cook down there at Malta, south of Sicily down here, across Sicily into the boot tip of Italy, where all the rings are overlapping, everywhere from Malta to the north up into the Tyrrhenian Sea. 5 to 5.5 should strike in the next few days. Okay. Final warning on this is going to be, well, actually there's two more going out. I didn't get this in my last update. English Channel, North UK. I would keep watch up in the North UK. I heard about a bunch of fires breaking out up in Scotland. Guys, Scotland fires. I don't know what to tell you. They're saying they're wildfires. Okay. We're hearing that a lot lately. I mean, it is warm. It is getting to be summer. I wouldn't be shocked that we get wildfires. But the spot where the fires are taking place, I got to show it to you because this matters. It's not like it's just anywhere in Scotland. It's next to this. See this thing here? See where it says Aknaha? I'll zoom in some more. Maybe turn on our gallery. We might have information on this. Volcano cabins, right? Ardnamurchin. How do you say it? Sussinek, you know? Dinnafash, Sussinek. It's Dinnafash. Ardnamurchin. It's an ancient volcano, okay? It's from back at the time of, well, supposedly when the dinosaurs existed. But there it is, an ancient volcano. To the east over here, bunch of fires breaking out. Just got to point that out. It's not just anywhere. They're right in there that we heard about the fires. Now, there are other fires in other spots in Scotland, so not saying it's the only spot that's burning. I'm just saying the ones that I looked up, when I caught the town name, I didn't know where it was. I zoomed in, I saw it took me right over here somewhere, and I'm like, wow, man, of all the places to be next to, the ancient volcano, right? I'm not saying they're related, I just have to point out that they're next to each other, of all the spots. So seismically speaking, I'd watch for a 4 up there, a 4 up in Scotland, which is pretty darn rare. Let's jump across and go down to the south, down here in New Zealand for my New Zealand viewers. Now, I don't have the New Zealand feed on, but I can tell you I checked yesterday, and it showed a line of smaller earthquakes going down across the southern Alps down here at the south tip, going down to the south tip of New Zealand, and then a cluster up here on the north part of the island. So if we look between the two, that puts us to Christchurch to Kaikoura again, just like all the other times, and we watch Christchurch to Kaikoura again for something in the near 5.0 range. Let's just put it right at a 5. You got 5s on your north side. We're going to look for a 6.5 on your north side. That means Kaikoura is most likely going to be getting about a magnitude less, so that puts us somewhere in the 5 range for New Zealand. Okay, I know it's a lot, so let's just recap. We're going to look next to each set of deep earthquakes for a new shallower, larger earthquake. This should be the biggest of the bunch, going up to 6.7 next to New Caledonia. As we go over to the west, we watch for 6 to 6.5 to strike Java. We watch for 6 to 6.5 again to strike up here in North Philippines next to Mount Mayon, which is already evacuated for the volcanic threat. As we go further to the north, we watch right on the coast of Tokyo for a 6, and that should be incoming here in the next few days. An upper 5 to near 6, let's just say 5 to 5, 5.5 to 5.9, North Nepal, India, South China. If you're in North India, if you're in Nepal, if you're in South China, right here in the middle. North side of Iran, upper 5, what was it? Going on memory here, guys. 5.0. On the north side, I almost said upper 5. And then over to Italy, 5.5 due in Italy. 4.0 level activity due up in Scotland. Aussie guys, down here in Australia, we haven't had much activity to report on the northwest side of Australia. I have not seen any significant activity get reported across South Australia as well. So when there's a lack of activity on your northwest side, guess what? Lack of activity across the rest of the plate. I think that's going to change. I think with the rest of the plate starting to move, we're getting deep earthquakes down below. We have an X-class flare that just took place on the sun. Should watch up at the northwest side of Australia by the red arrow. That'll let us know something's coming in. And then once it gets reported in there, you watch back down at Adelaide again. Back down to the east-southeast, Kangaroo Island, down here in southeast Australia. And the size of the activity coming in dictates the size of the activity going across. So the size of the wave coming in, size of the wave going across. And with nothing to report up here now, I mean, I would say we would watch for something like a 5 to strike out here in the ocean on the backside of the arrow, then watch for something like 4.5 to 5.0 to strike back down in Adelaide. That's just a guess. I don't have any earthquakes to report up in the northwest to base a forecast on. But if we're just going on the rest of the plate, then it's a 5 up in the northwest and something like an upper 4 to near 5 down in the southeast. Okay. Central America, South America. That 6.5 struck right on the coast of Baja, Mexico. Mexico's been going, and then 5s go down right to the north side of South America. Once we get into South America, we drop down. Now, this is going to be just like the West Pacific. We're going to have 6.5 level activity spread out across the plates, plural, and this includes the United States. So I'm going to watch on the west coast of the United States, out here right off the coast of northwest California or southwest Oregon, for up to a 6.5 to strike in the next 7 days. Now that's already got a 6.4 down here to the south, on the plate boundary to the south. Same for down further to the south. I'm going to look for another 6 to 6.5 to strike here on the north side of Chile, right in the middle of this hot mess of all the earthquakes. So that's 7 different 6.5s I'm going to be looking for over the next 7 days. And I think all of them are going to get hit. I don't think it's just going to be like 1 or 2 of them. Okay? So North Chile right here in between all the activity. Let me show you on the USGS map the spots that I just warned. So Central Mexico already went. You see the plate boundary here. Already talked about the high pressure system rotating over all the plate boundaries and the electron cascade. VLF electricity go down into the plate, precipitate an earthquake at the center of the rotation. Add in the VLF wave coming in from the north, up here, and it comes in from the northwest, goes across the United States. We'll talk about the United States in a second, but 6.5 at Mexico already right here where the plate boundary comes together. Kind of a no-brainer down here to the south, right in the middle of the plate. We'll be seeing something similar in size, and up here off the coast of the United States, right where the south tip of the Juan de Fuca comes in, should be about the same size. The whole Pacific's moving on a 6 to 6.5 level, so we shouldn't be shocked when 3 different areas break. One's already broken in the middle, so both sides should also break on either side. North side, south side. About the same distance apart, too, in the next few days. So 6.5 off the coast of the United States. Now, speaking of the United States, man, we've got a lot to cover, guys. Let's go over and take a quick look at the weather. The weather. Now, why am I showing you the weather? Well, I got in a lot of trouble. I got roasted, and I got really depressed over the past week and a half. I did. I got real sad, started crying and everything. I got smeared on Canadian national news and by Reuters. Reuters piled on me, man. Reuters. Now, why did they all pile on? Well, because I was showing the fires. So we're going to turn on our true color imagery. We're going to look at 200 images. We're going to look at yesterday going into today. Oh, wait. There we go. True color imagery. And we're going to look up in Quebec to start. We're going to look at the fires because these are on the edge of the North American craton. And this does matter. This matters big time. Here's last night. This is Quebec at last night. You see which way all the smoke is being pulled. It's being pulled down to the south by southwest at this point into the United States. All the black dots are the spots where fires are in Quebec. Huge, right? Here we are this morning, and that's the current image right here now. But this is last night. Fires in Quebec and Ontario over to the west. I mean, come on, take a look. Let's go over to the west into Ontario. And what you'll see are huge fires as of current. There we are last night north of this lake. 3 spots. Take a look at that. Last night into this morning. This is across central western Ontario. So it's not just Quebec, it's Quebec and Ontario. Okay, now over to the west we go, and we have the fires over in BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan. So here we are last night, and you should be able to make out all the smoke is this hazy color, and then the big, thick plumes of smoke coming out of BC right there. Okay, so let's go down to the south. I'm not done. We're going down to Mexico now. Check it out. Watch this last night in Mexico. There we are, right at sunset last night. All of this going up to the north, up to the U.S. border, all smoke. And let me show you the difference between clear air and the smoke-filled air, in case you don't know. So here we are last night, and you can kind of see the difference up in Southern California versus Mexico and the Gulf. This is all smoke, that hazy-like, versus the clear air up to the northwest. So look at Mexico. Now we're going to go down really quick and look at the Yucatan Peninsula down here in Mexico, because that is where a lot of that smoke and fire came from last night. Look there. All of a sudden. And smoke coming in from the north, which is being pulled down from the north from the fires that are going all the way up through Mexico, right up to the U.S. border. Here's our northern view. Here's the U.S. border. And here's last night. And the fires that are going in there are kind of hard to see underneath the clouds. But we're not done yet. Let's go into the United States. Look here in Arizona. Look at last night in Arizona. Smoke coming from there. We also have smoke being pulled into California from the north, and a fire, small one, that broke out next to Salton Sea, Salton Buttes. You can barely see it there. I will zoom in really close so you can see it kind of blow in. You'll see it blow in from over here on the left-hand side next to Salton Buttes and Salton Sea. See right there at sunset, you see it. I'll just move it back and forth. And I think they got that one contained, but the one in Arizona, that's pretty big. The one in Arizona at the center of the screen is huge. And the fire over in California, any kind of fire in California I don't like to see. Going up to the north by northwest, we get into California's Central Valley. And all we're going to see here is haze last night, but not nearly as much as the rest of the country. You guys have a somewhat of a breeze coming in off the Pacific, but when you look at the greater area, it's pulling smoke in from the north now, and it's coming into northern California. As of last night, you can see it, pulling it all the way across Nevada and back up to Idaho and Montana, going back out across, up to the north by northwest. I could probably maybe see this on last night's quote-unquote global view. Whoa. Got ourselves some funny animation going on there. Okay, so back to it. Fires up in Canada all the way across. BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan. You could skip over Manitoba. Then Ontario and Quebec. Fire, 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 fire across the north and the south. And now add in Arizona and Southern California as of last night. I think they got the one in Southern California under control. That's a lot of burning going on. What's going on? Well, the earthquakes are matching the spots where our fires are developing, including going down across Arizona and back over to the East Coast. The only thing missing are the quakes actually coming out of Canada. You'll notice they stop getting reported any significant size by the USGS. They don't report them unless they're huge up in Canada. Now you'll notice they are reporting right at the border, 1s and 2s, but then we stop and we go all across Canada. We don't have anything reported. Okay. Well, I'm here to tell you there's a line of quakes that matches something here, and to see it, let me just turn off all the numbers and maybe turn down the rings a little bit. This is 48 hours worth of earthquakes, and I want you to compare that to this. Going down through Colorado, back over to the East Coast, and up the East Coast. Obviously, it's a perfect match. We're looking on the edge of the craton. The craton is in motion. The earthquakes are following the craton edge from the West Coast over to the East Coast. Every day, every week. And the biggest of the bunch over on the west, followed by similar-sized activity over to the east. It's not losing much momentum. Southern Colorado got hit on the edge of the craton, perfectly on the edge of the craton. One more time. Look at Colorado on the map here. Look where the purple part meets the rusty brownish part. Colorado, right? Southern Colorado, you see it. Well, there's something there. There's something at the location where the earthquake struck. There's a reason the force struck here. Well, first of all, it was a wave coming across the United States following that craton edge. That wave is equal to 4.0, 4-ish range. We got a 4 out here over off the west coast a few days ago, now followed by a 4 in Colorado. But there's a reason. There's something at this spot. The wave sought out this location. Why? Why didn't it just carry on over to the New Madrid seismic zone and break naturally on the faults there? Well, first of all, you'll see the earthquake, even though it's a 4, it's somewhat large for Colorado, that they're not claiming it with any town nearby. And that's really odd because there are several nearby towns. Look, Haney, Colorado right there. Ludlow, Colorado right there. El Moro right there. They can triangulate from any one of those. Or the bigger town, Trinidad, nearby. Why just list it as Colorado? It's almost like nobody wants to associate themselves with the 10,000 or more drill points that are right next to where this nice-sized earthquake is striking. All of these different pump apparatus there, different oil and gas pumping operations. Fracking, they inject wastewater down into the ground. You see the shadows of the jacks of the pumps there. They take water, collect it, fresh water, and then inject it into the ground with chemicals to break apart the ground, to release the gas, to get gas and oil out of these areas. And there's thousands and thousands of drill points across the mountains here. All across. Every single one of these is for oil and gas. So when I see it just listed as Colorado, and it's almost like they don't want to own that there's a bunch of pumping operations right there. Kind of don't pay attention to this kind of thing going on. And I don't like that. We have to pay attention to it because we're going to be seeing 4.0 level activity all the way up here on the East Coast and the Northeast in the next few days. Maine, New Brunswick, Quebec, Maine, New Brunswick, a new 4.0 level activity. Pretty rare. Coming up to the Northeast. Should strike in the next few days. We got a 4 on the West Coast. Got a 4 in Colorado. Going to have a 4 on the East Coast. Follow this path. It's a stepping stone path of earthquakes going across all these areas. And everything from Colorado down through Texas, back up here to Oklahoma, all of these quakes here in the Midwest or in the Plains states, every single quake here from southern Colorado down through Texas, all these are at drill points, every single one. No exaggeration. If you need me to prove that, I can, pull the coordinates for the quakes and go look them up and take your time, and we could spend all day looking these up. Now, I've already looked them up, so I already know it's there, but it's like a pumping operation like you would see maybe at Saudi Arabia. Let me show you. Huge. All right, here's our nearest well. Literally right there. And look at all the tanks and pumps and jacks. Okay, that's just where we're starting. Now, I said Saudi Arabia, right? And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. So let me show you what it looks like down here in Texas. See all these? Okay, you get the idea. Every single one of these is a different drill point for oil and gas. And I'm just going through one Texas county here. Look, it gets way, if you think that's a lot, if you thought that's a lot, look at the county to the north side. And that's nothing. We can keep going, okay? Look, they've done whole Texas counties this way across vast areas with millions of drill points. I call this gangbusters overdrive. I wonder if we have a street level. Can you believe it? Right? Again, when I'm talking about Saudi Arabia, I'm not kidding. All right, anyway, back to it. Earthquakes there. Now, that's just the one that I looked up, and I showed you what's all around it. So, I mean, over to the east, same thing. Over in central Texas, central western Texas, and up to the northeast. Now, make note of where this earthquake struck. Right next to it at the New Mexico border, something very strange happened. Let me show you. Over here on my community page. Well, strange. Take a look at the screen. You're going to see this flash on and off. This is at the Cannon Air Force Base. Yes, C-A-N-N-O-N, right? Cannon Air Force Base. A large harp ring, which is a slang word or a slang term for a radar pulse. At the center here is the radar station, the NexRad radar, and it's pulsing. It's pulsing. You see it go up into a high decibel of Z. Think of that like a blast of a radio or a blast of a speaker, right? Normal background sound level is blue, and then it goes, okay. That pulse of energy vibrates and lingers for multiple days, up to 72 hours. And it goes back to the very center, to that black dot, to the transmitter that pulsed it to begin with. Vibrates back and forth for multiple days. Now, let me show you what happened when this pulse occurred. This is the hydrometer classification for what was actually recorded. And heavy rain is in dark green and hail is in red. So dark green and red. Now, what was actually there? Nothing. It was a clear night. So what reflected like hail and rain on a clear night up in the sky when a pulse happened? Electrons. Electrons are reflective like a mirror when they're stripped when you scuff your feet across the carpet. Well, this would be a case of radio waves scuffing their feet across the carpet, precipitating electrons which become reflective like hail. But it's nothing physically there. You can't see anything with the human eye. Then it's like a gong, like you've hit a big gong and it's vibrating for multiple days. And then that attracts storm activity to the center within 72 hours. Severe weather within 72 hours. But I've also seen earthquake activity near the center within 72 hours. Cannon Air Force Base is right here where all the rings overlap. So I'm going to watch there just on my own because of the giant harp ring that happened, the radar pulse which happened there. I am the discoverer of harp rings, in case you don't know. And it's been talked about across the whole world. It's even made those conspiracy shows on like History Channel and Discovery Channel. There's some conspiracy guru guy on there, and they're like, a harp ring is a radar. Okay, well, I'm the discoverer of that. And if you don't think it's possible to manipulate the weather using radio waves, maybe you didn't hear the news. Did you hear the news? Well, if you didn't hear the news, the U.S. government made a weather modification portal for NOAA for people to check. And option number 8 on the list of activities which must be reported if you're a private company doing weather modification activities is lasers and other forms of electromagnetic radiation. And guess what is electromagnetic radiation, radio waves. So, in case you didn't know, the government admitted that electromagnetic radiation, radio waves, can modify the weather. So now that we know that, and you see a big pulse of 750,000 watt microwave pulsating, you know to watch the center where the pulse came from for all sorts of stuff, from severe weather to earthquake activity. And why would earthquake activity precipitate down below a giant pulse of energy? Well, for the same reason it happens below power stations. Nuclear power plants, solar, wind, coal, natural gas. Between all of those stations, they all get earthquakes down below them. The electrical generation, the electron cascade, the scuffing your feet across the carpet of the atmosphere. Okay, now let's go over to the East Coast and go talk about this. Go through the New Madrid Seismic Zone. New Madrid. Now, it listed as East Prairie, Missouri. Now, that's interesting because the town of New Madrid is literally 5 miles away, but they wouldn't want to panic the general public, so they would list it as East Prairie in the hopes that nobody would look it up and ever look up the location to see what's there. What's there? Farms. Pretty cool, farms. How about the town of New Madrid, 5 miles south? Here's East Prairie right next to it. But New Madrid Seismic Zone is here. But there's something else here. This thing. It's listed as New Hamburg, right? Let me turn off all our borders and labels. This is 6 miles by 9 miles. And it's in the shape of an ancient bastion fort. However, it's made of foothills and mountains 300 to 500 feet high, lined with trees. Nobody's found this. I had to find this on my own. And the dimensions speak for themselves. This is in the classic bastion fort shape. I mean, I'm just roughly measuring here, but you see it's 9 miles. And it's 9 miles on either side. And that's bizarre. And this is on the edge of the New Madrid Seismic Zone, 9 miles by 6 miles, in this bastion fort shape, but forgotten about in history. Now, humans, I don't know. Look, 6 by 9 miles, hundreds of feet high, a long time ago, thousands of years ago, washed away over God knows how many years, and the New Madrid Seismic Zone just so happens to be on the side of it. The only way I found this was earthquakes struck below it and somewhere else. Let me show you. See the town of New Madrid? Right down here. On the south side of town. Right next to the water tower. There's a graveyard. Well, let's see. The school. There's a school, a graveyard, a water tower, and Indian mounds. Let me show you. Here's the school, which is in a very, very odd shape. High school. With the racetrack. And here is the Indian mound, Native American mound. And this is Mounds Cemetery is the name of this place. Now, how did I find any of this? An earthquake struck below this thing. Right below it. Well, right across the road, right here. And I did a street level, and I said, what's that? And I saw it was a cemetery. That creeped me out. And then I saw it was called Mounds Cemetery, and I said, oh, why is it called Mounds Cemetery? And I did a little research, came in at a street level, and you can see the Native American mound that's here, right there. And you can go there and visit it. Anyway, earthquake down below that mound first, then an earthquake down below this thing. This ancient star fort, but, well, bigger than a star fort. Earthquakes down below it. It is what it is. I'll show you. I'll tell you what's there. It leads to more questions, that's all. Let's go over to the east and look in eastern Tennessee. Let's see what's going on over... Well, look, it just says Tennessee. It's good to know that AI has not or dropped triangulation from towns. Nobody wants to be tied to the quakes. Liability. Now, I wonder what's here. Let's take a look and see. A cemetery. Well, that's not... Multiple cemeteries. It's getting a little weird. Oh, well, isn't that special? Do you see this big line going through the woods here?
And it goes down to the south, across the border, down here to the south. Okay, let's follow those lines and see what's there. High voltage transmission lines, multiple sets of them, at least 3. Now, if we follow this down to the south and we go into some kind of hydroelectric transmission, look at that. I wonder where the power on that's coming from. Do we have some kind of giant power plant here? What is this? If this is a giant power plant, well, then we've got ourselves another VLF-induced earthquake, electrical induced. Now, I'm surprised it's not marked. That's pretty interesting, whatever that is. Let's go take a look at the street level and see what it says. It's got an entrance there. Ooh. All right. No label. Yeah, you know what they say. Whenever there's no label, it doesn't mean anything. Nothing to see here. Ooh. Oh! Ah! Ha 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 ha! Oh, shit. I said I wasn't going to swear, but there's the only swear word of the update. And you can understand why even children would be able to understand why the adult just swore. They signed my paycheck. I don't have any problem with anything being shown. Nothing to see here. Legit. Nothing to see here. This is a case of me saying bye-bye. Don't worry about it. What are you so worried about? I did say the S word, but I can even go in and edit that out, I think. Just one? No problem. Let's move on over. Let's get out of there. Nothing's wrong. Let's go to Elgin, South Carolina. Go see what's there. Surely nothing more controversial than a Google headquarters would be over here in South Carolina. Man, get me out of there, will you? What's this place? Looks like a subdivision, thank God. No, unfortunately, guys, this is Fort Jackson. See that? The military training range. Well, it's getting a little deep in here, man. It looks like I stepped in it pretty deep. What did I step in? I don't know, man. It looked like mud or something. Man. To go from that to this, right? Go from Google headquarters to a military base. What's the difference? Let's go up to the Northeast. Let's get out of there and go. Let's try it one more time. Third time's a charm, kids. We'll go up to Newcastle, Virginia. I already know what's here. I already looked it up earlier. We're going next to drill points in this case. Man, get me out of here. You know it's bad when a drill point's a relief. Crying out loud, man. Dude. Boiling Spring. Wait a second. Boiling Spring? Boiling Springs Firehouse. Why have I never heard of this place? What is this? Have you guys ever heard of this place? Boiling Spring, Virginia? Boiling Spring. Wow. Well, I'll just tell you, they've been blocked by large cobblestones. Whoever dove down there to... Hashtag Tartaria. Boiling Springs along the edge of the Craton in Virginia. Yeah, you don't get talking about that too much, do you? You got an earthquake next to it. Man, this update just got real exciting, didn't it? All right, so what are we going to look for? 4.0 earthquake up in the northeast, up at Maine-Quebec border. Let's go over along the west coast. Let's go look up in the northwest. 48 hours worth of earthquakes shows us a line of earthquakes coming in from Montana, going down, and we have a huge cluster now all the way around Yellowstone Park. This is in 48 hours. Last day still shows it. We're above the magma chamber at Yellowstone, which is here. Over at Idaho, Yellowstone's magma chamber goes below Idaho. It comes up to the surface here at the park. So, earthquakes all along it. But wait a second. Craton. Idaho, Montana, Yellowstone. Look at the black arrow in the northwest. Points in from up at Vancouver Island, goes right down to Yellowstone. Literally right into the park. The black arrow in the northwest. Now, Yellowstone is on the edge of the craton. Perfectly. Right there. So, on the edge of the craton, weak point, where magmas come up and intruded, and blasts every now and then, with a big blast. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen now, but these are actual earthquakes. Don't confuse these with tremors. There's hundreds of tremors that happen every day at Yellowstone as the park either inflates or deflates on a weekly and monthly basis that actually breathes like a giant. But in this case, these are actual fractures on the surface up above the magma chamber. So something's coming in. And it's pointing like an arrow. You see it? It's almost like a triangle shape. See that? It's pointing down to the southeast. That's why we have an arrow there. Look, the reason we have arrows on here is because I noticed that earthquakes go in that direction. So look at Utah. See that? Now, at Utah, it points over to Colorado, to the drill points. Guess what's in Utah? Not the volcanoes. There's something in Utah at Salt Lake City, right here. And there's something down here where the 1.6 is. Where these two quakes are, there's something significant at each spot. Just like something significant up at Yellowstone, pointing like an arrow down to the southeast, down to the drill points down in Colorado. They're both pointing like arrows down to Colorado. So what's in Salt Lake City that's significant? Magna, Utah. Bunkers. Not bonkers. Bunkers. ATK Orbital Systems and, or Thiokol Corporation. And they've got these underground bunkers all across right here. And then there's mining that's being done. I don't know who's doing the mining here, but these are definitely covered mine shafts and conveyor belt that's carrying whatever they're hauling out of there. Anyway, the underground bunkers. Underground bunkers, which is so weird. I brought this up in my last update, which is the 1980s and 90s rumors of bunkers there. And people denied it. They said there were no bunkers. Whatever. Now, this 1.6 down to the south is next to a huge pumping operation. So what do the bunkers and pumping operations have in common? How about they're both perforations in the crust? Just like a quarry almost. A fracture in the surface of an egg. You'd say it was minuscule and only a few kilometers deep, if you're a professional. And I would say the wave seeks out small cracks in the plate regardless of whether you think they're minuscule or not. In this case, our drill points are so many. We have, I don't know. I mean, I would probably guess 1 million. But I don't know. I really don't know. It could be less than that. It could be a few 100,000 drill points. But you get the idea of how many there are when we just go all the way across whole regions of Utah. And it just keeps going. It goes through the fields. Oh, wait, that's not a good example. There we go. It goes through the fields, through the farm fields, across to the other side. And it looks like a grid on the ground of drill points. So what did I just show you? I just showed you all of this. All of this is drilled. It goes back down across this valley here, back down to our quake. So our quake is striking on the edge of, I would say, one of the biggest drill points in the western United States, if you don't count California's coast. That's where the 1.6 is. So bunker, drill point. As we go further to the south, we have 2 volcanoes. And this gets us into the rest of the update. So just like Yellowstone, once we get over to the west, it's pretty much volcanism. That's the leading cause of the wave seeking out these spots. It's not that we're going to see volcanoes erupt, but the spots are being hit because there's volcanoes there. There's already perforations in the plate. So let me prove that to you. Here, this stack of earthquakes here, all around Mount Rainier. Small little cluster of earthquakes at Mount St. Helens. One explosion along the border we can ignore. And over here, Benton City, Washington. This takes us in next to a nuclear site. Nuclear site. And it's the Hanford Nuclear Facility. So there's the quake, and here's Hanford with all of its old reactors that they broke down, all of the stored material that's kept here. And the LIGO gravity wave sensing station. The long lasers inside of here that vibrate when there's an incoming gravity wave. And this thing is pointed at a right angle at this, all the stored nuclear material. They say it's just chance that it's pointed at that. They say they're measuring gravity waves from across the universe. But guess what? The lasers come down and cross in the housing. And at the center where the scalar is, where the 2 beams cross, is called a scalar. Like where they cross the beams at CERN is called a scalar. Oh, they're doing the scalar Higgs boson experiment. Well, it turns out that there's a way to possibly detonate stored nuclear material, according to Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Bearden. And that we could detect for that and possibly be able to at least have a forewarning that someone else on the other side of the planet was targeting our area here by having something like this here to let us know if they were going to detonate all of our stored material. How can they detonate stored material? Crossing of radio waves over a vast distance using very low frequency from places, let's just say, in Siberia. That's not me saying this. This is Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Bearden talking about that as a potential threat. And it's just chance that there's the LIGO gravity wave sensing station pointed at this stuff with the scalar where the beams cross. That's where the quakes are. So up at Mount Rainier, do I need to show you Mount Rainier? Everybody in the Northwest knows about Mount Rainier. If you don't know about Mount Rainier, here it is. You can see it from downtown Seattle. The earthquakes are on the left-hand or western side of the volcano flank. Don't worry, it doesn't mean it's going to erupt. It's just a sign of the wave that's coming in. And look which way this ultimately points. These quakes out here, if you just take it from the 1.8 out to here and the 1.5 explosion out to here, it's pointing like an arrow into the next arrow, which is then going down and around and back into the rest of the earthquakes I already showed you. We can skip over Oregon. There's no earthquakes to report in a day's time. Let's go back 2 days. 3 days. 4 days. A week. Whoa. A single earthquake reported in the last week. Well, never mind. It's an explosion. It's not even a quake. It must be nice to be immune to earthquakes in Oregon, where every earthquake turns out to be an explosion. Now, let's go see where this explosion was. Maybe it was at a quarry or something. But wouldn't they list it as a quarry blast then? I don't know. Let's go see. I got a quarry next to it. Maybe it's a mining blast of some kind there. Maybe it's down in the plate. That's interesting. So, no earthquakes in a week for all of Oregon. Do you believe that? I mean, that's what's being reported. That's what you're being shown. That's what the USGS feed shows you. But do you believe that? I don't know if I believe that. I would think that maybe there's a lack of reporting of earthquakes coming out of Oregon. You know, just literally turn it off. Some kind of directive from some governor somewhere probably got it shut off. I don't know. All I know is there's no quakes for me to report to you in a whole week there. That's odd, considering it's the most seismically active zone on the planet, wouldn't you say, the Juan de Fuca fracture zone? That's what I was told when 6.0 earthquake struck off the coast of Oregon. They said it was the most seismically active zone on the planet. Who said that? Some professor. Let's go and look up this quake in northwest Nevada. Since it's not really giving us a triangulation location, what's there? Whenever I just see a location like Nevada, I want to see if there's anything there. How about Black Butte Volcano? An ancient volcano undersea. Undersea ancient volcano. What else is there? What's this? A long road to nowhere. Sure seems like somebody put a lot of energy into making a road that goes nowhere, right? What we got going on out here? That's a lot of energy to put into a road that goes nowhere. You see how well maintained that is? Look, it just goes up here and stops. Goes back down. What the heck? Is that your highway? No, there's the highway over to the... Okay, yeah. Sometimes you don't want to go... Sometimes you don't want to find out what's back there in the backcountry. Might lead to more questions than you want to ask at that point. Okay, so, earthquake next to the volcano. Down to the south we go, and now this gets into something where I could easily sum up the rest of these earthquakes as being along the California-Nevada border, every single quake at a volcano, all the way down to here. Once we get down to the 1.6, we go to a nuke test site. But these are all volcanoes along the California-Nevada border. I can prove that to you if you need me to. So starting up here where the 2.8 is, for instance, it just says Nevada again. Okay. Well, that what's the difference between that Nevada and this Nevada? That's why you triangulate and list the towns. So not every earthquake is listed as the exact same. Isn't that weird that they're doing that? It's almost like they want to hide something at each location where they do that. So what would they want to hide here? Well, take a look. See Sugarloaf Peak Butte Volcano? How about this? This giant oval shape here. This giant oval shape is an ancient supervolcano caldera. It's lined with its own smaller volcanoes. It has two folded basins on either side, Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. We also have Steamboat Springs, geothermal field on the south side, and up here the Needles at Pyramid Lake on the north side. We also have the giant U.S. Army bunker depot here with a bunch of deep earth bunkers again. Interesting. So, supervolcano, earthquake along the outside edge, lined with volcanoes, and geothermal fields on either side. That's where we start. That's where we start with the 2.8 and the 1.5. Around it. Once you get down to the south, you have a diagonal line of earthquakes that starts at the border and goes quite literally in a diagonal line, northwest to southeast. And we go right in the middle where the big stack is. Let's show you what's in this big stack location. This is a supervolcano, and it's confirmed. The one I just showed you to the north is not confirmed. That's one I found on my own by seeing earthquakes around the outside edge of it there in northeast California. But the one that is confirmed is where the rest of the earthquakes are going, so... Whoops. There we go. And we're on the west side or back side of Long Valley Caldera. There's the Smithsonian on it, and there's Mammoth Mountain. Mammoth Mountain Ski Resort / volcano. Isn't that wonderful? Look at that. And these are all different spots where you can go skiing. Now, this reminds me of that movie. I brought it up in my last update. Dante's Peak. Professor Harry Dalton screaming into the microphone in a gymnasium. Don't panic. It turns out when you scream, don't panic. It doesn't help. People panic when you scream, don't panic. Anyway, we have a line of earthquakes going from a supervolcano to the north, down to the confirmed supervolcano here at the center, and then this line goes down to the north tip of the valley. What's in the valley? You want to see? We go out of the supervolcano, down to the valley here, and look. Big Pine Volcanic Field. That's what we connect into. Okay. So we go from here down to here. Supervolcano, down to Big Pine. Going over across the border, we're on the north side of Ubehebe Craters, or on the east side of Crater County, California. I wonder what's there. How about craters? Ubehebe Craters and the others. Let me show you. Earthquake epicenter here. And here's our volcanic features right next to it. Look at that. Ancient volcanism from a long time ago, and that's not the only one. There's another one right next to it here. I don't have any names on this. No names, but we are on the north side of Ubehebe Craters. Hold on one second. I apologize. I just had to sneeze, cough, clear my throat, and I decided to take a drink of coffee too. Late spring, early summer for me, terrible. Late fall, also terrible. I have 2 times a year where I have difficulty breathing, talking, and everything. You're talking to me right now, or I'm talking to you right now during that time. Ubehebe Craters, north side. Crater County. That's where these quakes are. Man, what a distraction, right? Let me recap. Supervolcano to volcano to volcano. Then we go down, finally, we're getting out of the volcanoes. And we're getting down to Indian Springs, Nevada. Nuclear test site. So what's up with the nuke sites, guys? Come on, man. How many is this? It's electron cascade. Man-made faults in electron cascade, simply put. And yes, there is still electron cascade happening from all the materials which are in the ground here. And I would think they probably store some here too. I can't prove that, but Doomtown is right there. Operation Rise Line, Frenchman's Flat, and on the north side, all of our underground nuke sites. I could turn on the Google Earth community, and we always do this. Whenever I show this area, I just randomly pick a crater in the middle and try to find one and click on it. U.S. nuke Operation Azul, December 14th, 1979. 20 kilotons. Just one of hundreds, if not thousands, across the area. The quake on the south side of Skull Mountain, but come on, it's man-made faults. That's where all these earthquakes are. Here across the nuke site, going down to the south of Indian Springs. One lone quake out at Ubehebe Craters directly. I shouldn't need to show that to you. I already talked about Ubehebe Craters. Now the rest of California, look, we can sum it up as a diagonal line of quakes. Just like what I showed you at the California-Nevada border. So, look at it. California-Nevada border, diagonal line of quakes. Northwest, southeast. What's the difference between there and along the coast? Nothing. Let's go and look up to the north. The geysers. Geyserville. Geyserville and Geysers, California. Paste, search, what's there? I've only said one bad word in this update. I'll try and bleep it out, guys. Whatever. I'm going to upload this and we'll just chalk it up as me being the best I can be. See all these? These are drill points. Drill points for steam, not oil and gas. So I showed you a bunch of drill points for oil and gas, but now we're at a volcano on the San Andreas, basically. San Andreas on the left side. Now you can see it. It goes down, the San Andreas goes down along the coast in a diagonal line. Now you understand. Diagonal line matches the San Andreas. San Andreas is moving from up at the volcano down through the Bay Area all the way down here and then goes over into the valley. Instead of carrying on the San Andreas to the south, it jumps over into the valley. Do you see that? And then it goes down across the valley, goes into the Garlock, then spreads back down across Southern California. That's what's going on. Now, do I need to look up the rest of the quakes? Do I need to look them all up all the way down the San Andreas? No. These are all along the San Andreas. You should be able to look them up yourself if you want to. But if you go down here into the valley, I will show you what's there, why we're jumping off the San Andreas going over into the valley. We jump off at Parkfield, right about here. Jump over to here. What you see what's marked? Oil and gas drill points. Hundreds, if not thousands of them. All from here down to here. And here's the San Andreas. So, like a perforation in a cardboard box, jump off and follow the perforation down to Parkfield. From Parkfield, down to Ridgecrest. So from here down to here. And down at Ridgecrest, where this other stack of earthquakes is, we go from there down to here. Let's zoom in and show you what's here. Volcano Peak, a bunch of other volcanoes down here all the way down to the Lava Mountains, Volcanic Field, Black Mountain Volcanic Buttes, and a huge military base. Well, secret military, government, private company, Boeing, Raytheon, NASA. They've got a bunch of stuff out here, including rocket test sites and all kinds of weird stuff going on. That's where the stack of earthquakes is down here at the Garlock Fault. Once we get down into Southern California, you have another diagonal line of quakes. Zoom in and show you. See it? The San Jacinto, the Elsinore, and the north part of the south side of the San Andreas, or you could just say where it turns into the Imperial Fault. Look, that's a lot of activity for a day to 2 days. The number of earthquakes, The frequency is increasing. California is increasing. I've got a warning now that I've issued up here off the coast for 6.5 to strike out in the ocean. After that hits, Southern California should get hit. So first one, then the other. I think Southern California should be struck over at the Mojave, which is right out here by the Hector Mine earthquake location. So that's the good news for Southern California. It'll be in the 5 range when it hits. But I think first we'll see the activity out in the ocean. Once we get down to far Southern California, we're on faults, but then we go across the border down to Mexico, and here, and here, the tail end of all the earthquakes down here at the south border are all at something. So, for instance, this is Salton Buttes Volcano, where the first line of quakes is. And there's geothermal drill points here for steam. Then we go over here, and this is where the shifting boiling mud pots shifted. And they had to move the railroad track. Then we get right down here to the border. You can see the border. And along the border, we have a bunch of solar generation. And I mean a lot. A boatload of electricity being generated along here. Now, we don't just stop at the border. We go across the border down here to the south, and we go to Cerro Prieto Volcano, where the Mexicans have done their own geothermal drilling. I haven't had to show this spot in a long time. But it's getting hit with quakes now, going down to it. And then we pick up with the fires further down to the south. Look, the plate's shifting, I think. Releasing heat, causing fires along the edge of the plate. I don't think the lightning thing is correct. I just don't think the lightning thing's correct at all. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the fires in this update, but I just don't accept the lightning thing. That they all struck and sat there and smoldered exactly for 18 hours and then all kicked off at once because conditions were right across Quebec. Well, that might explain Quebec if you want to explain it on one day, but what do you want to talk about the rest of the freaking country? And I said freaking, so that's not a bad word. So I just can't accept that the whole country would do that in the course of multiple times. It just doesn't make logical sense to me. But other people might be willing to believe that, but it's a matter of belief. It's a matter of, do you believe? What do I think is causing it? I think the plate's shifting, releasing heat along the edge of the craton. Maybe even methane. Up. Hey, there's our 5 in Italy. Italy just got hit. Everybody put on the brakes. South Italy just got hit. South Italy just got hit. There's our 5. Check it off the list. It's a pretty big earthquake for the location. Hold on. Everybody put on your Put on your brakes, whatever you want to say. USGS has it at 5.0, and the Europeans have it at 4.5. Look at that. Okay, all right, there it is. So let's go get the coordinates, go put them in. Let me show you where the quake struck. USGS does not have the quake yet in Italy. They're not even carrying it yet. USGS users, if you're using the USGS site, you're ignorant of the quakes. You don't know they're happening. Seriously, look, I just hit refresh. It's not showing. And there'll be people who will be like, oh, Dutch, they don't show under 4.5 internationally. And I'll be like, oh, really? What about this? Here, hold on. Let me find one. Make a liar out of me, right? Well, they do. They report under 4.5 internationally, okay? Here's 4.5 in Kuril Islands. There's a 4.2 up in Russia. They report under 4.5. So, no earthquake yet reported on the USGS site. Let me hit refresh one more time. But the spot where I warned was South Italy, right here. I warned from the boot tip, Malta, boot tip, South Italy. And it is struck right here at Basilicata, at the spur of South Italy. Oh, definitely that's the earthquake we're looking for. So, new 5, 4.5, let's hit refresh. What is the magnitude at now? .5. All right, they got it at 4.5. All right, that is the quake we're looking for. Check it off the list. It's within the magnitude. If they downgrade it, whatever. All right, check it off the list. Italy has been hit. If anything else goes down, I'll jump back on at a moment's notice. Please have an earthquake plan. I think it would be prudent for you to have an earthquake plan. It's a good idea just to know what to do when an earthquake strikes, which is to take shelter underneath a table or a desk. It's pretty basic. Internationally, they tell people to go outside, and that's because of the structures. A lot of the structures aren't built to code or any code, and a lot of them are cinder block and stone stacked structures, concrete, unreinforced masonry, that kind of thing. And you have to pay attention to what kind of building you're in, but in general, underneath a table or a desk. In many of these videos, you'll see, except for the devastating building collapse videos, that you'll see people running outside, and they probably would have been better off underneath the table or a desk. They run outside into a worse situation where things are falling from higher up than in your office or in your home or something. Now, the emergency kit is crucial. You need to have an emergency kit, not just for quakes. This will get you through all kinds of stuff, from everything from an evacuation for a fire to having to stay at home because of power outage, change of clothes, set of shoes, flashlight, battery, first aid kit, sanitation. A way to communicate or charge your device. The flashlight and batteries are going to come in handy because if you're out of power, you don't want to have to use your cheesy little flashlight on your phone that only sees a foot in front of you like a candle or something, when you could have had a nice, powerful flashlight with a rechargeable battery and a little pocket solar panel for $25. So you need to have those things covered. I would also suggest food and water. This is a no-brainer. Food and water. Long-term supply, too. You're not going to be able to take it with you if you have to move or go somewhere and you're mobile or get displaced. Still, though, you need to have it. Even if you lose it, you still need to have it. Food and water. Long time, too. Like several months' worth. It's expensive. The long-term stuff, that stuff's really expensive. But it's an investment. It's something you're going to invest in your safety and security. You're not going to rely on the government to bring you something. You right? I'm waiting for the government. Said nobody ever, right? Like, some fool out there will. 10:51 a.m. You'll think of better things to put into your emergency kit. If you have children or elderly, please remember medicines. And for the children, when all the adults are melting down in a disaster that they've never been through, might be a good idea to have things in the emergency kit for the kids. Special distraction things and extra little treats and other sorts of things. For just a good idea. And for elderly, it would be a good idea to have that extra medicine and extra supplies for people who have not prepared, or maybe they did prepare but they couldn't go mobile with it because they might be disabled or elderly. finally, you might want to have some extra stuff. I almost said a bad word. Might want to have some extra stuff on hand in case stragglers or aggressive people come, where you can pacify them or even get rid of them by simply giving them something. And there will be people who come ask, because guess what? Nobody actually does the preparation. Only 1 in 100 people actually do it. So, I'm pulling that number out of the air. I am pulling that. I'm just guessing 1 in 100 people actually have an emergency kit. I have yet to watch one disaster video, whether it's a flood evacuation, a fire evacuation, where they only have a few minutes to get out of a house, or an earthquake, after the earthquake, or during it. I've yet to see a bunch of people running around with their emergency kits, all kinds of backpacks and stuff with all the stuff in it they need. Yet to see it. I always see a bunch of people in a big dust cloud with nothing. All right, anyway. All right, please take the time to develop an emergency kit, please. The way the world's going, it's probably a good idea to have it anyways, and to be ready to be mobile just in case. I would recommend have a shelter-in-place plan and a mobile plan. Most people will have to go mobile at some point if major disaster ever hits. I'm going to save this as a video. The fire thing, look, guys, I'm not going to go too hard into it, but I got real bummed out. My poor wife had to talk to me while I was crying. Grown man crying over freaking getting smeared on Reuters. I don't even know why I was so upset about it now that I think about it, man. They're like, all these mainstream news companies are known for lying. They're known for exaggerating. They're known for just fishing for bucks. They're worse than the worst YouTube channels, if you think about it, right? Like, always grifting for money and sponsors and whatever, man. Anyway, and they get money from the government, too. Like, up in Canada, they're actually getting financed by the gov. Anyway, these people are not going to go off on them. I mean, they're probably reading a script that they're made to read, but I got real bummed out about it. It was when Reuters piled on. It was enough with the Canadian, but when Reuters piled on, I actually got a little bummed. What would you do if the international news came after you because you said something? You said you thought something. And I didn't say I thought it was a conspiracy, by the way. I said I thought it was the plate shifting. They said that I said that it was a conspiracy. The Canadians and Reuters. They both said that I said that it was a conspiracy to start the fires. It's the craziest thing. Because I did not say that. I was specific about it, too, in the video. I'm like, I think the plate shifting, there's no way. I didn't say no way, but I said people would get seen if it was a group of people. I downplayed that. I don't think it's a group of people. If it was a group of people, it would be a DEW, a directed energy weapon from space, and the group of people would be a bunch of people in camouflage. Probably in a foreign land. Hopefully not in our own. If it was a group of people. I don't think it's a group of people driving around in a sedan or a van, deploying into the deep remote woods of Canada, all at once with radios somehow able to talk across thousands of miles, all at once without ever being heard, and somehow starting fires on their own all at once somehow. I mean, I just don't think that. I don't think it's possible, and I also don't believe the lightning theory. It's a theory because nobody has any actual proof of anything, including the meteorologist lady who came up with her lightning theory. And I'm not disparaging her at the Canadian news. She's entitled to her theories all she wants, just like I should be able to. Now, my theory is that the plate is shifting and heat is coming up. Is it really that wild to say? I don't know. Depends on how freaked out by geophysics news you are. All right. Okay, anyway, all right. Let's save it. We're saving it as a video. We're going over to YouTube. We're going to upload it. Hey, everybody, what's crack-a-lackin' on YouTube? Make sure to like and subscribe. Actually, make sure to do that. Actually, will you? I never ask. I think it's the first time I've ever asked. In 12 years' time, I think it's the first time I've actually ever asked, will you please like and subscribe to my video? It actually does help. It does. It gets your videos trending and your channel growing. I think my channel's more like an unwatered cactus in the middle of the desert. It grows slowly. It's like a Joshua tree. 10:57 a.m. I'll be back if anything else goes down. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening, or night. I will upload this to YouTube. One swear word in the whole time, and it was well placed, I think. Peace out.